Every habit you have started somewhere small. So did this one. This is a story about a boy who couldn't stand being bad at things, and the grandfather who handed him a jar of rocks instead of an answer. Let's begin.
The Jar of Pebbles. Marcus had a habit of quitting things the moment they got hard. It wasn't laziness exactly. He just couldn't stand the feeling of being bad at something. The second a video game level beat him 3 times in a row, he'd shut off the console. The second his bike chain slipped while he was learning to ride no-handed, he'd walk it home and leave it in the garage for a month. Drawing, piano, the school chess club, each one followed the same pattern. Excited for a week, frustrated by week 2, gone by week 3. His grandfather noticed. "You've started 4 hobbies since spring," Grandpa Theo said one Saturday, watching Marcus toss aside a half-built model airplane after the wing wouldn't glue straight. "How many have you finished?" Marcus shrugged, not looking up. "They're stupid anyway." "Were they stupid when you started them?" He didn't answer that. Grandpa Theo didn't lecture him. He just disappeared into the kitchen and came back with an old pickle jar, empty and a little cloudy, and a small bag of smooth gray pebbles from the driveway. "Here's the deal," he said, setting the jar on the table between them. "Every day you do one hard thing, and I mean a thing you want to quit. You put a pebble in the jar. Doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter if you're bad at it. The only rule is you don't get to skip the hard part." "What happens when it's full?" "I honestly don't know," Grandpa Theo said. "Let's find out." The jar held about 60 pebbles, Marcus figured, eyeing it skeptically. He almost said no. But something about the way his grandfather just left it sitting there on his dresser, not pushing, made it hard to ignore. The first pebble was the model airplane. He went back out to the garage, found the crooked wing, and instead of throwing the whole thing away, he just fixed it. Badly. The glue was lumpy, and one wingtip drooped slightly lower than the other. But it stood up on its landing gear, and that counted. He dropped a pebble into the jar and felt strangely proud of something so ugly. The second pebble was harder. He picked the bike back up out of the garage, oiled the chain himself, with his dad's help, and rode in slow, wobbly circles in the driveway until the sun went down. He fell twice. The second pebble clinked against the first. Some days the hard thing was small. 5 minutes of piano scales he hated, played anyway. Some days it was bigger, going to chess club even though he'd lost embarrassingly the week before, and losing again, and going anyway the week after that. There was a day he almost skipped. A school project he'd been dreading, a presentation in front of the whole class about a country he'd picked almost at random. His stomach hurt all morning. He thought about faking sick. He thought about the jar instead. He gave the presentation with his hands shaking and his voice too quiet, and a kid in the back asked him to repeat a sentence, and he wanted to disappear. But he finished it. He didn't run out of the room. That night, the pebble felt heavier than the others, somehow, even though it was exactly the same size. By the 3rd week, something odd happened. The piano scales stopped feeling like punishment. His fingers had started to remember the shapes without him thinking about them. The bike no-handed trick, he landed it, finally, for almost 10 full seconds, grinning so hard his cheeks hurt. Chess club still humbled him most weeks, but he'd learned 3 openings well enough to stop losing in the first 10 moves. And once, just once, he beat a kid named Theo Park, which made his grandfather laugh so hard when he heard the name coincidence that he had to sit down. Marcus noticed something else, too. The things that used to make him want to quit didn't disappear. The frustration was still there. His hands still got clumsy on the piano. He still lost more chess games than he won. What had changed was smaller and stranger. A half-second pause before he gave up, where he used to give up instantly. In that half-second,
he started asking himself a different question. Not, am I good at this? But, did I do the hard part today?
It took him 41 days to fill the jar. He counted, because of course he counted. He'd started keeping a tally on a sticky note on his mirror, another small habit he hadn't noticed forming. When the last pebble went in, he carried the jar downstairs and set it in front of his grandfather without saying anything, just letting him look at it. Grandpa Theo turned the jar slowly in his hands, the pebbles shifting and clicking against the glass. "Well," he said, "now you know what happens." "What?" "Nothing happens to the jar. It's just a jar of rocks, Marcus. Look at what happened to you instead." Marcus thought about it. The model plane sat finished on his shelf, crooked wing and all. Then he'd started a second one without being asked. He could ride no-handed the whole length of the driveway now.
Not even close. But he'd stopped being the kid who left after one bad round. He still hated piano scales a little. He still played them. "I guess I stopped quitting," he said slowly, like he was trying the words on for size. "You stopped quitting today," his grandfather corrected gently. "That's the only version of it that's ever true. Tomorrow, you'll have to decide again." "That sounds exhausting." "It is, a little. But you're allowed to be exhausted and still good at something. Those aren't opposites." He set the jar on the windowsill, where the afternoon light caught the pebbles and made them look almost silver. "I'll get you a bigger jar." "For what?" "Well, you'll think of something horrid eventually. You usually do." Marcus looked at the jar for a long moment. 60-something gray pebbles that didn't look like much of anything, that anyone walking past the window might mistake for decoration. He knew better now. He knew exactly what each dull little stone had cost him, and exactly what it had given back. "Okay," he said. "Get the bigger jar." He went upstairs, picked up the piano scales he still didn't love, and played them anyway. It's a strange thing how a jar of plain gray pebbles can hold so much. Not magic, just 41 ordinary days, stacked one on top of the other. If you've got something you keep quitting, maybe it's not asking for talent. Maybe it's just asking you to show up tomorrow, the same way you did today. Thanks for listening.